In today's video, I'm going to answer a question I hear up and down the driving range day in, day out. Why can't my actual swing look like my practice swing? Make sure you check this video out. Welcome back to the TruGolf Academy. You've joined me, Jon Watts, today at Branston Golf and Country Club. Today's video, as I mentioned, is all going to be about that question that we hear up and down the driving range day in, day out. Why can I do it when I'm making a practice swing, no golf ball there, but I put a ball in front of me and it goes to pot, I don't make the same movement? Now, for me, and I don't care what club you're picking on here, it's going to be the same answer for any of them. So I'm using a mid-iron to demonstrate, but this is relevant with any golf club. For me, it's because there's not enough awareness of what the club is doing, the club face position. So when people haven't got the ball there and they're just making a movement, they're not really thinking about the club face position, where they've got the ball in their way, their brain is thinking over time about how do we get this club back to the golf ball. So I'd say one of the most common amateur faults is perhaps a swing that comes from out to in. So let's say you're plagued with that movement where you come over the top and you are a fade or a slicer of the golf ball, or potentially pulling them, so for a right-handed golfer, more to the left of the target. And you know that, so you're working on perhaps a change in your practice swing to feel like there's more of a loop, like you're swinging more in to out. Well, great, you're changing the path, you're exaggerating that path, but you haven't been aware of this club face position, and actually the club is returning wide open. And if you hit it from there, you will be swinging from in to out, but you'll be hitting a push slice, so something that's starting right and going even further right, which is potentially worse than your slice. So your brain won't allow you to do that, return with that club face that wide open. We end up making compensations in the downswing to what's happening to the backswing position. So when you're making practice swings, I want you to be a little bit more aware of the club face position. So let's say that is your fault of this over the top out to in swing. Then try and get that feeling of allowing the club to drop behind you, definitely, but be aware of that club face position, be aware of that wrist angle. So make the movement slowly. What we don't want to do is allow that club to drop, but we've got the club face wide open because we've got the wrists in the wrong position. So we want to be a little bit aware of the club face position and the wrist angle that's connecting that. So I would really like at pre-impact here at the last parallel position, my club face to match my spine angle, to mean that all I've got to do is keep rotating my hips and my torso and I'll square that club face. When I get players with that face wide open, we have to use a lot of hands. When our hands are having to work overtime, our body just shuts down. So we end up with an inactive looking body and a very overactive hand action. And people don't like to see that on video, and they definitely don't like the results, the ball flight. But a lot of it is just because they're not aware of that club face. So when you're making practice swings, I think when you see the pros actually trying to feel a practice movement that they want to ingrain into their full swing, you'll tend to see them doing it a little bit slower, a little bit more deliberately, a little bit more awareness of that club face position, rather than just changing the path, but forgetting about the club face. So let's try and do it with a little bit more awareness of what the club face is doing, getting that club face back to square by the time we hit the golf ball, because that really is the most important thing. Contact, strike location and club face position. If we can square that every time, we're doing a pretty blooming good job. And our path, you know, we don't want it to be extreme either way, but we can get away with a lot if we can control that club face position. So I think, yes, we can make pretty movements where this path, the line that we're swinging on, looks better. But if we're not aware of that club face position, we're going to hit that ball all over the place. So do them a little bit slower, a little bit more deliberate, and make sure you're concentrating on that club face position, which is ultimately linked to wrist angles. So let's pretend I am a golfer who's swinging too much from out to in. So my old movement's this way, and I'm a fader slicer. What I'm going to do is feel my practice swing behind the golf ball. I'm just going to get that feeling of swinging to the top. I'll just move over a little bit so it's easier for camera. Swinging to the top, allowing that club to drop behind me, but being aware, or shallowing the club as we call it, but being aware of my wrist angle, that I want to get that feeling that my wrist angle, my glove logo is pointing behind me for longer, so I improve my club face position. Well, I'm not saying it's something I'm going to be aware of when I actually hit the shot, but if I'm hitting 50 golf shots and I'm rehearsing that movement a couple of times, I've rehearsed it 100 times. It's not going to be ingrained by then, but it's a start. Let's keep doing it and keep doing it. There's no point in making this sort of practice swing that looks pretty and it's got the right movements, but I had no facial awareness because I'm not going to square that club face. So the practice movements, I would suggest when we actually hit the ball, we just relax and hit it. The idea would be less time between the practice moves and the actual hitting. So if we can start to, in our practice swing, exaggerate perhaps the movements we're looking for, if it is a swing path change or a pressure change, whatever that might be that we've been told by our pro, but we're still aware of club face position. This is key. We need to hit the ball out of the middle. That was a little bit out of the bottom, but we need to hit the ball out of the middle of the club face and we need to square that club face at impact. So when you're making your practice movements, practice swings, a little bit more awareness of that club face is definitely going to help you start to take that practice swing to the golf course, to your actual golf swing. If that video has helped and made some sense, hit the thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel for all the other content. Cheers, guys.